Greetings. My name is Sharon Jeffes, and I'm very excited to get and privileged to get to talk to you about if you want to go into art, the graphic arts, anything having to do with them. I always say that art, drawing and painting is art that you look at, sculpture is art that you walk around, architecture is art you walk through, fashion is art that you wear. We have industrial design, we have interior design. There's so many different areas that you can go into if you love art. So I just want to help and encourage you and give you some good ideas of what you need to do and what you need to have in order to go into this as a career and get scholarships and or go freelance if you want to. We're just going to talk about this today. So I'm going to get my outline. You will receive an outline with websites you can go to and with samples that you can go to look at. And we're going to go through this today, this outline, and it's all about homeschooling high school art students and the creatively gifted. This is for parents and even students if they want to listen to this. Does your student have a passion or gifting for the visual arts? I remember I always loved art. I wanted to be a doctor at first, but I always loved doing art and creating things. Even very young, I can remember my brother and I tie-dyed everything practically in the house, and my mother came home and she thought, oh my word, I can't believe this. Uh, some of the signs of the creatively gifted students, and I have a website that you can go to get more. ADHD and creatively gifted is very close together, and you'll be able to go to a website if you want to read more about that. And I also have a paper that I wrote on this. But the difference between the creatively gifted and ADHD is a creatively gifted student will really be able to focus very much on just one thing. And a lot of times, if they're bored or they're not interested, they can easily go from thing to thing to thing. And this is interesting. I'm very much ADHD, along with, I believe, being creatively gifted. But the two sort of go together. And creatively gifted students, and if you're going to be an artist, you do sort of have to march to a different drummer. It's different when somebody comes to you and says, I've got a business. I can't think of a logo or I can't think of this. Can you help me? And so you don't want to, a lot of things that you learn it by rote memorization. It's not true with art. With art, you need to come up with new ideas. Art and invention are very close together. And I'm going to talk about that in using art to reinforce core subjects for your kids that are very artistic, giving them ideas that they'll be able to excel in the core subjects with this kinesthetic and visual learning. But this is particularly on being a gifted student. I remember with my son Jonathan, he was very gifted, and I couldn't really communicate really well with him unless I looked him in the eyes and so I could say, "Will you please clean your room up? Will you please?" That never did. But if I focused and said, "Look at me, clean your room up," it really helped a lot because he was so focused on what he was doing. And when he was taking computers apart when he was 12 and 13 years old, and putting them back together. And he ended up with a job downtown Nashville, didn't even have his degree yet in writing computer software out of the box type stuff. He was very gifted. Sometimes I think God puts you with a person that, sometimes you're very needed. I mean, my mother was not gifted. My dad was an executive. He wrote me letters in outline form. My mother, what planet did you come from? Her everything in her kitchen was organized, everything. But they were the perfect parents for me because a really gifted child needs that solid parent that loves them but that will give them the freedom to be creative. If you have a gifted child and you're artistic child and you're trying to put them in a little box and say, you must do it just this way, you don't want to do that. There's a book by Cynthia Tobias called The Way They Learn. And she talks about this one young man who his mother would say, I want you to water everything in the garden, water everything in the garden. And he wasn't getting it. He was being difficult. And she said, okay, I want you to design a watering system that's going to work. And I can read you the quotes, and I recommend this book. He invented this amazing system that really worked, that watered the lawn. He was happy and thrilled, and so was she. So a lot of times you have to loosen up on what might be your other child, or if you're a teacher, you recognize this. I taught for 40 years, and I would have to teach to the student and not just give, this is how we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to be successful. Thomas Edison, there's quotes from him saying, I knew this was wrong. I could break my spectacles, and he has one in a newspaper. It's so interesting, but they said, you this book, the book says this, and he knew he was very gifted. He knew that was wrong. Can you imagine being the mother of someone else? However, he also said he failed, I think it was 1,000 times before he finally succeeded. Don't give up. If you've got these ideas, you need to there's something inside of a person who is really creatively gifted. They need to be able to do what God has called them to do. And you are their solid rock. I believe that. I believe that parents of these really gifted children, these artists, uh, some of you are doing such a marvelous job because you're giving them the freedom and the structure that they really do need to excel. And it's a very hard thing, and it's to learn sometimes because if you're not used to it, you have to see what succeeds with them. And they like individuality and things that they can do a little bit differently. They don't want to do it like everybody else, and that's how God's made them to be. They're not going to be an accountant. I remember when I passed a test at Brown Shoe Company to be an accountant, to do their accounting. And after my degree was in art education, and my word, after 3 weeks, they said, "You're so nice," but I couldn't, it was so frustrating. Although I might have the ability to do it, it wasn't where my heart was. Same thing with being a librarian. I tried to do that. That wasn't what God called me to be. It was being an artist and being a teacher and teaching art. Now, what do they need to know? What do your young artists need to know for success? In my opinion, there's a cohesive thing. The elements and principles of art are very important. Line, shape, texture. This is a cohesive thing that they will need to know. Many times they're very, very good. This will make them better. Do they want to be an art director somewhere? They need to know the language of the arts. And so I believe it's very important, and they can do it in a very creative way. They need to know techniques in media so they can find their own media that they like. They might like watercolor, pastels, they might like photography, they might like uh, filming, that's very important. They might like sculpting, they might like printmaking, allowing them to experience different media. And then they can choose if they're very gifted, like I recommend Prismacolor pencils. There's very high quality. Once they know what they want to do, like I had a student, it was wonderful. Somebody donated a bunch of repeatograph pens, very, very expensive, very wonderful, perfect for professional artists. They're professional quality, but they're expensive. And one of my high school students was able to get them, and it's a wonderful thing because you want to use high quality because you want your work to look its best. You don't want to start out trying things. You don't need the high quality. Only when you decide what you want to do and you want to develop a body of work, then you want to move on to a little bit better quality. I always recommend never do things on paper that are less than 50 pound. If you're doing work that you want to keep, the paper will be, if it's not good paper, it's not expensive paper, sketch paper, watercolor paper, um, mat board, all kinds of things. But using cheap paper with good works of art isn't a really good thing, in my opinion. I always think that you need your media and knowing the elements, principles of art needs to be top notch. And then you want a student to strive for excellence in that area. I always like to tell them about copyrights, trademarks, and public domain. The great thing about copyright, if you have a student that's talented, you always want them to sign and date their work unless it's a competition and then they want to put it on the back. Copyrights, um, trademarks. I wrote this thing, the artsy animals, and I actually did get offered a contract, which I didn't take. But a trademark would be you could sell anything with this on it, like um, uh, Winnie the Pooh has recently gone out of the copyrighted area and gone into the public domain, which means you could take parts of it and legally use it. Public domain means that you can do a picture that would be by Van Gogh. One of my students did Jesus was born on a starry night. It was wonderful. And she could legally use it. You can research this in if you go to Wikipedia and you go down to the little wheel and press it, you look at all the media, you can study different works of art, but it will have on there if it is copyrighted, if it's public domain, if it is, you can use this with permission if you do this. So that's a really good thing to know. And again, I wanted to tell you that I do have if you want to, for maybe a semester, I can let you into I have a YouTube channel, and I also have what is a Google Classroom that has high school art in it that you could actually go to and you could learn all these things that you needed to know. And it would be $25 a month, period, that you could go in here. If you wanted my mentorship with it, it would be 50 a month. And so if you would want to do that, we could do that. If not, that would be fine. For $25, you can get into this, and the lessons are all videotaped. Mentorship, I recommend highly, highly to have mentorship. I was very privileged to mentor many, many students, and it couldn't be a greater experience. If you know Christians that are artists in your community that you trust, it's very true. Many times, parents think, oh no, I certainly don't want my child to go into art as a career. That wouldn't be a good idea because it's true. There's a warfare, a spiritual warfare, because the visual media is so powerful. Bam. Can you paint me a picture? You can communicate even without words. You can communicate visually. So there's a spiritual warfare around this. We want young people to be the best of the best in communicating good, positive things. You have the other side that are trying to do negative, ugly, awful, demeaning things. So when you have a child that is gifted and anointed to do this, the more you can help them, the better. And mentorship, there's so many times when if you get it also goes with internship. You would be surprised how many you could go to if you know a Christian artist, a Christian business, where they would be needing somebody that would be able to do their graphic artwork. Internship is a fabulous idea. I just started calling some architects and different things, and oh, we'd love to have an intern. You don't get paid as much, of course, as a worker, but an internship is a fabulous thing to have. And then you're mentored by somebody. If it's just the mentorship, it's someone that you can go to and they will help you and give you advice when you need it. This is a very, very, very good thing. And I want to talk a little bit, again, as you go through this, when you get your handout, I'm going to have for you some websites that you can go to that'll be very helpful. You can contact me at any time. My contact information is there, visualmanna@gmail.com, and I would be happy to help you and answer questions. How do I create a digital portfolio for scholarship and for freelance work? All right. A digital portfolio needs to be 9, 10, 12 works of art that you have. I believe you should be able to have it and carry it in a big black portfolio where you would have the pieces right there with you that if you were asked to go in and show them your work, you could do that. I also think that you need to put it in a digital format. When you do your portfolio, you need to choose your very, very best works of art. You need to start with a picture that's going to blow them away. That's some people might have said, man, whoa, this is great. And you want to start with that. You want to have a cohesive plan how you're going to show the works of art, and you want to end it with a pow. Whoa, this is great. You want to show a variety of things that you can do. If it's digital, of course, you could have a video or two in there. You could have photography, but you want to be able to show. And what they'll be looking for, they're going to be looking for um, neatness, of course. They're going to be looking for the elements and principles of art, like the rule of thirds. How did you place this? When you look at anything, you look at a calendar, things that are purchased, like you look at a billboard. Bam, why is that red strategic? What draws your eye to that? What do you look at first, second, and third? Even in the master works of art, which I highly recommend, you go to a museum, you take notes, you look at the masters. It's very important to study them because you can see their use of the elements and principles of art. And when you look at even to the point of looking at the wonderful old movies when they would do the big musical numbers. And Singing in the Rain is an excellent example where it's actually about the first sound in movies. Movies are an art as well. And you see when you look at an art director, what does an art director do? An art director tells where do you stand, how does this look, how do you get a fog effect, etc. Special effects, that might be your thing. The story from what I've heard of Steven Spielberg is that his mother allowed him to blow up a pressure cooker of what was it, potatoes or something in his kitchens that she could film it. His parents were very open to allowing him to do creative things. And if you have a person that's very creative, I had a one student that wanted to get into a scholarship, and I did all kind of fun things, and he filmed it like Jello exploding in a microwave, some really crazy things. But the fact is, he did get a scholarship. And it's not an impossibility, but you want to have things in your portfolio that are really special, your very best work. You can put things in a cohesive way, brainstorm, thinking or list your works of art, put them in order, I always really believe critique is important. Critique is important because maybe you don't agree. Hey, that's cool. I'm glad to hear this. So many times, I've had a work of art and I asked somebody that really didn't know a lot, what do you think about this? And they'd say, well, I think this, I think that. And I'd go, wow, that's exactly what I needed. Or you go in a college class. I've taken art at um, Colorado State University, at Metropolitan in Denver, at Southern Illinois, took sculpting, and you always have critique. You always get together. Iron sharpens iron. And I'm a Christian artist. I want to encourage young people that have a positive uh, outlook to do art. Having it can be rugged. I mean, a critique can, but you've got to get the idea of, hey, we're just trying to help each other here. These are just ideas. This is just, whoa, this idea, that idea. Should you use it? Should you not? Bottom line, it's your work of art, and you don't have to do what anybody tells you to do because it belongs to you. You're going to sign it, and you're going to have intellectual ownership of this idea. You're going to be able to market it, you're going to be able to sell it, and that's very, very important. You want to create a resume, and a resume would be things that you have done in art. Whenever you do something, I've done a lot of murals with students, and uh, always request a letter of recommendation from someone other than your teacher. If you've done something, a work of art, if you've done a portrait for them, whatever, it's always a good idea. If you've helped with maybe a fund, raising funds, and you've made posters, etc. Anything you've done like that, ask for a example, like a sample of a letter of recommendation. If you did a good job, and it doesn't have to be real detailed, but it just is documentation that you have done something. Especially as a homeschool student or perhaps a Christian school student, you really do need this. The more that you can get letters and you're helping someone with this, helping them with that, date it. Do you have to put all of them in your portfolio? No, you don't. Um, I recently had a student that got a little bit of trouble with a photo thing, and somebody had taken and put something over in Photoshop, etc. And those strong letters of recommendation that this would never happen, that she would never do this, came in very, very handy. So I really want you to do this. I want to encourage you to do this. Create a portfolio checklist of what you want to do. Make your best work, make your name and bio in the front and in the back, make it easy to read. And I want you to be able to, I would like for everyone that does this to have a little bit of a logo. Be thinking of you as an artist. And I had one, a student I remember with a teardrop. I loved it, designs by thinking of a logo is really a good thing. It gives you a brand. And if you have a very distinctive work of art, be it fashion, be it painting, drawing, animation, whatever, having a logo of your very own is a really, really good idea. Now, finding internships and scholarships available for homeschool students. That's a really important thing. I've had students. I taught AP art in design, AP Studio Design, and when you do that, you actually create a body of work to get your college credit, and it's a dual college credit thing. If you can get an AP, go into high school and get an AP Studio Art class, I highly recommend it because it helps you have a cohesiveness and it helps you to build your body of work. I will have in the presentation a couple of places that you can go. I have some students that have really done this. One got an animation scholarship, and you can contact me anytime about this. All of this is in my um, my classroom, my Google Classroom, where you can go see other portfolios that have been done successfully, find out what you need for a digital portfolio. Again, scholarships are available. I know a student that in the Kansas City Art Institute, which is really, really excellent, got a $150,000 scholarship with just an excellent digital portfolio and an excellent essay. I have another company that if you have a student, and you can go through me with this if you want to, uh, a wonderful Christian company gave $1,000 to a gifted student who wanted to be an artist just by writing a letter of saying what she felt God wanted her to do. She didn't have the money. Could she do an internship, etc. If you get a letter together that is, perhaps your parents can't afford a lot of money for a 4-year degree in art. Myself, I graduated from John Brown University and art education. And then I went on to University of Arkansas and finished English. Um, Again, you can, Oral Roberts University is very good. I believe they have a great art department. Bob Jones University. And for a secular art department, you would have to ask me about it. I would have to go step by step. I think sometimes it can be overwhelming if you send a young person off to school in a secular university without a lot of support because it's very difficult sometimes in the art department and the creative venues that they have to be a Christian and to be conservative. I remember for me, and this is a true story. I was taking in Colorado, I was taking a philosophy class, and there was a Jewish gentleman who didn't believe in God. He was an atheist, and he said, "Well, how many of you believe in God in this class?" And one girl timidly raised her hand and she said, I believe in the Lord, and a couple of us, and it just, but she stood up and she really made a case. And he said, well, I'm going to prove you that that's not true. And I'm telling this is a very true fact that um, one time he was saying there is no God, and the blackboard fell. I mean, it just, it went like this. And he was an awfully unkind, not a nice person. And a lot of times in universities and colleges, you have people that are trying to get you to go in a different direction that will not be good for you. And that's why I think that having strong family support, community support, friend support, and the Christian avenue is an excellent, excellent thing for young people to have. Um, if there are any questions, the lessons, I really think that one thing you want to do in high school and junior high, you want to find out what you're really good at. You want to have that individuality come out. You want to build a body of work with it. You want to sign it and date it. You want to be encouraged to be creative, to write stories. We're in the communication media here, the media that allows us to do movies, to do photography. We're communicating ideas visually and verbally as well. A poster with a bang, pow message, one word. Wow. It can change, it can have a huge effect on everyone. Companies spend thousands of dollars. Why does the president have a red tie? Why is the background the flags, the American flags? Artists are hired to put things in a setting that is going to influence people to believe and to think a certain way. That's why you need to know these things as an artist. You need to be able to read them. A normal person, perhaps if they don't have that creative aspect, they won't be able to understand as well. But if you get hired to you might be able to, doing the billboards, creating commercials, very powerful. All of these things, the foundation of the elements and principles of art are very important. I also want to encourage you. I believe as God has called you to be an artist. Bezalel was called by God to decorate the temple. He was called to be an artist. I feel like if you are called to do this, if you're gifted, if you're anointed to do this, teaching art, I believe it's an anointing. I believe these gifts, and we as a society need young people that are gifted in these areas to be able to be encouraged in their gifting, and they will be able to change the world. And I get very emotional about it because be bold, be original, be excellent, and you can change the world. And I just want to thank everybody that has listened to this. And if you would like to be a part of my YouTube channel, and I would be happy to mentor you. Again, it's $25 a month, not to have my mentorship, but to be able to have access to the class and to be able to understand what you're needing with everything to be able to be a career artist. I also have camps. I have a beautiful place at Montauk State Park, and I have camps that I do there just for 1 week or 3 days. Parents are welcome. It's a beautiful place that the Lord has just given me. And so I just want to thank everyone. You can contact me by email, visualmanna@gmail.com or vm period schedule art@gmail.com. And I just thank you for the great privilege of being able to share this with you. Using art to reinforce core subjects is another workshop I'm doing that'll be also, I believe, very helpful. God bless, and thank you very much.